They say you have to be a little bit mad to buy a boat, but particularly if it spent more time with water inside its hull than on the outside. Almost 2 years ago, we started our journey to escape the rat race and attempt to save a partially sunken boat that had been abandoned and neglected for over 10 years. We didn't have a workshop and we didn't have a crew. And honestly, we didn't know if we had the skills. This is everything that's happened in the 2 years since we found and fell in love with blue steel.
We first met when the leaves were falling. You felt like home. It was like you could see right through me, but now I'm all alone. I couldn't make you love me, now I know why. Two wrongs don't make a right. I know you don't deserve.
So the first job was to clean up. We've kind of been cleaning everywhere. It's a never-ending task because every time we get something clean, we make a lot more dirt and it makes it dirty. The back cabin, which is the proper double cabin, is not habitable at the moment because of all the water damage. It's manky in there. We've got a lot of cabinetry to take out. When you've just bought yourself a rusty old bucket, the first thing you need to do is find out where all the holes are.
In the beginning, it was all about survival. The hull was like Swiss cheese, and every layer of paint I stripped revealed another disaster. People constantly told me to scrap her. But the initial goal was simple. It was just to keep out the rainwater and make her watertight. But it took several months of scraping and grinding and taping before we eventually kept out the rain.
So just to describe what we've been doing with the holes is we take blistered rust like that, we hit it with a needle gun, it ends up looking more like that. Then I've been applying rust converter and then it looks more like that. And if there's any holes like that, we've been taping them up with butyl tape like that. And that's the way you make a rusty old holy bucket dry. Oh, it's pretty dry in here.
Once we'd finally patched up all the holes and kept out the rainwater, we eventually ended up with dry bilges. But now it was time to inspect the damage that over 10 years of water in the bilges had done to Blue Steel's hull. Blue Steel had been rusting from the inside out. We had to inspect the entire hull internally, but the most challenging area to get to was under the galley because of the water tanks. So inspecting the hull properly required the removal of the water tanks as well as years of rust and scale.
In the bowels of the boat, underneath the galley, and we're going to have a look, see what damage there is down here. When we first came to the boat, it was full. We emptied it with a hand pump at the time. Now I've got the trusty old wet and dry, or shop vac you call it, I think, in the States. Anyway, got a lot of shop vacuuming to do. I'm in trouble. I forgot to put the filter on the wet and dry. It's set for wet at the moment. So now the boat's full of dust. And Rachel's only just cleaned it. There's the filter. try and get this off now. Oh, Jesus, it's coked up. Oh, lovely. Day 2. Try and get that grey water tank out.
Caught behind Venetian blinds, out of reach for the city lights. This ain't where I belong. Hey, look at me, man, what I've become. I've been running east, looking for a sunset, digging deep since '99. What I thought was gone was sitting in my pocket in plain sight all along. I think it's time for me to go, burn all bridges. All I know, I got lost along the way, fell between the foam.
Once we'd inspected the bilges, we realised we need better access on and off blue steel. Previously we'd been climbing up the ladder on the stern, but neither myself nor my wife Rachel are getting any younger, and it was problematic carrying anything heavy up those ladders. We did try to get a few local scaffolding companies to erect some scaffolding with stairs, but we got let down several times, so in the end we decided to build ourselves a nice wooden flight of stairs.
Let's have a toast for those lost old eyes. And my crooked little heart that seems so rebellious is falling apart right now. I'm bleeding, an easy kill, gonna leave it all behind. I think it's time for me to go, burn all bridges. All I know, I got lost along the way, fell between the fold, pulling stitches, time to let go.
But there she is. We've got the stairs in, we've got a handrail in, and that's the stupid dog guard at the top. Stops stupid dogs from running too fast and ending up coming over the side.
Now that we had got easy access on and off the boat, it was time to get stuck into some of the more serious work. The worst of the corrosion we'd identified was at the stern, but we needed to get to it, and in order to do so, we were going to have to plan to remove the rudder assembly, but also remove the panelling from the aft cabin wall so we could get to the steel.
I just wanna hold you. I just wanna look into your eyes and tell you that I want you. You know you make me feel so.
But while all this skullduggery was going on, there were some pretty important decisions to be made also. You see, we lived about 6.5 hours away from Blue Steel, and we were having to take time in between work to travel all the way down to spend time renovating it, and it soon became apparent there was far too much work to work on a part-time. So we took a bold decision.
Start the year as you mean to go on, making silly decisions. Last year's silly decision to buy a rusty old tub, to renovate it, to escape the rat race. 2025's first stupid decision. Get rid of the beautiful house in all the farmland that me and the wife love, to live in a small bungalow, to downscale our lives so I can work less, we can renovate Blue Steel and sail off into the sunset and live happily ever after. It's the first night in the new place last night. It's empty, echoey. So we're just putting some home stuff up. It's a bit empty. Television's gone in already. Tiny little 2-bedroom bungalow. It's cute.
It seems 2025 must have been a year for hard decisions. And another hard decision we had to make was regarding the beautiful cabinetry that was in the aft cabin. We decided that we had no choice. If we wanted to do this renovation properly and get to all the steel hull, we would have to remove it.
Thinking about you day and night. I love it when you kiss me, love it when we touch. Every time I'm down, yeah, you make me smile. You're the solution. You are, you are, you are, you are, you are, you are, you are. You are the solution. You are the solution. You are, you are, you are, you are, you are, you are, you are. You are the solution. You are the solution. I wanna hold your hand. You're everything that I desire. Every time we touch, we get set the world on fire, world on fire. I wanna hold your hand. You're everything that I desire, I desire. Every time we touch, we get set the world on fire, world on fire.
So we've got the floor up. I've got a bit of cleaning up to do.
It was only after we'd removed the cabinetry and taken up the floor that we could see the true extent of the corrosion that had been happening in Blue Steel's bilges. And so began the long process of finding and removing all of the corroded steel. Once we'd revealed the true extent of the corrosion at the stern of Blue Steel, it soon became apparent that in order to do a proper repair, we were going to have to remove and replace most of the transom and the hull at the stern.
You are, you are, you are, you are, you are, you are, you are. You are the solution. You are the solution. You are, you are, you are, you are, you are, you are, you are. You are the solution. You are the solution. I wanna hold your hand. You're everything that I desire.
This is the bathing platform. As you remember,
This is completely rotten, and I'm going to get this bathing platform off because we're going to have to repair it.
Every time we touch, we get set the world on fire, world on fire. I just wanna hold you. I just wanna look into your eyes and tell you that I want you. You know you make me feel so alive. Can't stop thinking about you day and night. Love it when you kiss me, love it when we touch. Every time I'm down, yeah, you make me smile. You're the solution. You are, you are, you are, you are, you are, you are, you are. You are the solution. You are the solution. You are, you are, you are, you are, you are, you are, you are. You are the solution. You are the solution. Everything I needed. I never thought I'd meet someone like you. You know you are the reason. The reason why I feel like I can fly. Thinking about you day and night. I love it when you kiss me.
but there we've got corrosion. A big hole in the end. So the next thing is we've got to cut this out.
At this stage it was quite evident we had a lot of work ahead of us, but before we decided to cut the transom off, I was keen to find out whether the engines that had come with this boat were still running after 10 years and being partially sunk. In order to help me do this, I was joined by somebody who would become a good friend of mine, Simon from Ship Happens.
Right, so we've got some Volvo Pentas TAMD71Bs. These are 380 horsepower each. First turn in 10 years. And that's 180.
Clear prop.
Clear prop. Oh, I wonder if we'll get the props turning today. Oh, that'll be good, won't it? That'll be a good test.
Right, so the next thing we've got to do is check the freshwater side of the cooling. So I'm going to open the top up for the first time in 10 years and just have a look what we've got going on in there. Right,
Bit stiff.
there we go. Ooh, a little bit grotty. There's a lot of grot in here. It's just, there's some water there. It's not salty.
Is it good stuff?
Well, that's wild. Right, but it's not salty.
Right, so... right, is it going to go? It's going to be exciting, isn't it? Have you heard how quiet they are? Yeah. 60 odd psi of oil pressure.
Oh, bloody hell, look at that!
That's good.
That's amazing.
It's amazing what, like, 10 years sat here doing nothing, stick some batteries on it, bleed the fuel.
Perfect.
That's all we've done.
Without the engines actually working, it's a whole different project and a whole much more expensive project. This actually now really reinforces to me that we're doing the right thing, that in a few years' time we're going to have a phenomenal boat that's going to be on the water. And, you know, so I feel happy and inspired. Thank you, Simon. Thank you.
And we're going to buddy boat.
We're going to buddy boat.
I think we're going to have a bit of a race now to see who can finish the boat first.
With the engines now running, we could refocus our attention on removing all the corrosion on the bathing platform and the rest of Blue Steel's stern.
Now if I've got the angle right, it's a bit bright, that sky. Down here, can you see? There's a compartment here that we've revealed by removing the top of the bathing platform. So it looks to many of us that the stern of the boat has been extended. So it seems like there's been an added separate compartment here on the back of the boat. But then I had to think to myself, why is there water in there? Because this is a compartment you've got no access to, and there shouldn't be any water in there. That's the stern. That's the stern inside the compartment that I've shown you. And right about here, you can see there's a pipe. And underneath, that pipe comes into here. And on the other side, this is a second pipe. It does exactly the same. I think the original reason for those pipes is because they drain from the deck. And because I've seen the top of those, they run through the inside of the boat and they drain the deck, and they're supposed to drain on the outside here down into the sea. But because they're inside that compartment, they've been draining into the compartment and filling it up. So to say that was done at factory, leaving those drains draining into that compartment at the back of the boat, I think was a serious design flaw. Right, I'm underneath the back of the boat and I've got a technical problem. There's a load of blocks there in the back. Can you see the wooden blocks? They're holding the stern of the boat up, and they're in the way of all this rusty steel that needs to come out. I've got to figure out a way of lifting the back of this boat up just enough to get those blocks out and move them forward. If I can get these blocks forward 3 feet, this will give me access to cut out all this rubbish stuff on the back of the boat, and I'm really, really keen to get sorting all that out. In order to do that, I've got to take these rudders out. Today's game is Jenga blocks. The object of the game is to remove as many of these blocks as you can without this falling down on me. Oh, bloody spiders the size of my hand. Jenga! Oops. There she blows. So I think the next step is going to be removing this rudder assembly. So as you can see there's the flange that goes through a tube that's connected to the steel. To take this steel out underneath, we're going to have to get rid of that flange. These are real tools for real men.
Absolutely.
So that is the flange of the rudder and it's on a taper, and what's going to happen is Aid is going to bang it now, and with a bit of luck it'll drop out. Right then.
Ready when you are?
Yep.
Okay.
Give it a bang. Which one did you hit?
The left one.
Which left?
My left.
Yeah, that's starboard, that's the right Aid.
Okay.
Right, okay. All right, shall we try? Shall we try the other left?
The other left.
Yeah, try the other left.
That's the port, is it?
That's port.
But what if I'm facing the stern?
Well, don't face the stern, face the bow.
Right, okay. Here it comes.
There she goes.
One of the reasons that Blue Steel's bilges were full of water is because in this part of the world, it never stops raining. To enable to be able to continue working in the West Wales winter, we needed to build ourselves a shelter.
Should have marked the centre, shouldn't we?
Yeah, could go that way a bit more if you wanted.
A little bit that way?
Yeah, 3-4 inches maybe. I'd say that's about central. I don't want to hit you in the chops with it.
There we go. They're not much good at rugby, are they, the Welsh? Aid's measured everything up, measured twice, cut once.
I've measured 3 times.
He's measured 3 times. So we're going to cut once, we hope. Gluing and screwing.
Oh yes.
What are we going on now?
Yep, happy.
Measure once, cut twice.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
bad, mate. How are you?
Really? You lazy bastard.
Well, the wife got to do something.
If you want a job doing properly, you get the wife to do it.
I don't want to put his weight on. To get fat if I don't put it to work.
So my den's almost complete. What do we need now, Rach?
We need lights.
Clap, clap fast.
Now we had somewhere warm and dry to work, it was time to remove the remaining steel from the transom and also that rotten old hull. To help me finish removing the rest of the steel from the hull, and also to give me a hand with the welding, an old friend came back to visit again.
That's pretty good, that. We can get in and out of the boat now.
One of us could. You all right?
Is that your weld that's just fell off?
Right, so this big chunk of rudder support is off.
So the next thing we need to do is we need to think about these stringers, I've been told they're called, which are going to now be extended.
Now we'd removed the rotten old hull plates and welded in the new stringers, it was time to put in the new steel. We started on the starboard side.
We first met when the leaves were falling. You felt like home.
And of course it was just a matter of repeating the same process on the port side too. So that lines up. I can get the laser out in a minute. They're just using that steel as a straight edge, and that looks absolutely perfect. Right, that's it tack welded in, but I'll just show you what I've done. So tack welded down there, just so it all takes the contour of the boat. Let's turn the gas off and go and have a look what it looks like down below. There she is, all tack welded in, supported by the tack welds and this chain block here just holding this centre section. For the final time, fingers crossed, I'm going to clean this up, ready for paint.
We first met when the leaves were falling. You felt like home. It was like you could see right through me, but now I'm all alone. I couldn't make you love me, now I know why. Two wrongs don't make a right. I know you don't deserve me, and I'll be alright on my own.
Doesn't that look sweet? Right, we're all dry. So the next thing then is, let's give it a pick up and see if we can get it into place.
Looking back on the long cold mornings in your arms, the feeling of home seems distant now that we're apart. I couldn't make you love me, now I know why. Two wrongs don't make a right. I know you don't deserve me, and I'll be alright on my
With the new steel for the hull and the rudder stock back in place, it was time to turn my attention to the swim platform. But the steel for the swim platform was 500 kilograms, and somehow I had to find a way of manhandling this in myself.
Behind me, you probably can't see where I am, but it's 1/2 ton's worth of steel. I'm still here. You're fastened to the steel. That's the reason you went for a bit of a ride. Last bit.
What's your face, Shaun? There we go. Now I've got two jobs to do today. I've got to trim this steel down, and we'll also cut some of that steel here into two sections.
Looking back on the long cold mornings in your arms, the feeling of home seems distant now that we're apart. I couldn't make you love me, now I know why. Two wrongs don't make.
That was a monumental task. We've done well though. Two pieces of steel stored and saved, ready to go on the side of the boat down here. Bathing platform in, lethal edge. Need to get this dressed and trimmed up, and this whole area needs a blooming good tidy up at the moment. But that's not for now. That's for another time, because right now I'm going home. But anyway, till the next video, thanks for watching. Thumbs up, subscribe button, hit the hype button too, and the bell icon. Leave us a comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Caught behind Venetian blinds, out of reach for the city line.